It's something that I think is just not used often enough by video editors. Certainly the video editors that I know don't really go in that in depth with this kind of thing. What's happening, guys? Dan Debenham here. In this video we're going to look at how we implement adjustment layers into our timeline. So what actually is an adjustment layer? It's something that I think is just not used often enough by video editors. Certainly the video editors that I know don't really go in that in depth with this kind of thing. And they do all the effects and all the different sort of alterations that they're going to make. They make them on their actual clip themselves. Whereas with an adjustment layer, what we do is we use adjustment layers to make alterations, and that means that the clip underneath the actual video, like this video for instance, is not altered. It's not color corrected, it's not graded, there's no effects upon it. It's just a static clip, which means that if I want to do two things in my timeline, I can do them really easily. One is I can take this clip, put it somewhere else, stick an adjustment layer over the top of it, and it looks completely different. The other is I can create an adjustment layer effect, and I can replicate that all the way through my timeline just by copy and pasting that adjustment layer across the whole timeline. So I can save myself time in editing, and I can save myself time in creating effects one after the other with different clips by just creating almost like a template. And that is basically what adjustment layers are. They are essentially an ability in your timeline, it's a separate ability in your timeline to be able to create an adjustment or effect or a look without actually changing the underlying clip itself. So this video is going to show you a couple of different ways and how you can implement that, and how you can do that in a way that gets you both something you'll use all the time and some visual effects stuff as well. So without further ado, let's dive into Premiere Pro. Let's have a look how we use adjustment layers. Our clip is in the timeline, as you can see. It's sat here on the timeline, and we filmed our clip in log, so we are needing to do some color grading in order to bring it back to what color was actually in the scene, and then we need to also either correct or grade that footage at the same time, and we need to do that, and we can do that in a couple of different ways. There are many different ways to do it in Premiere Pro. One of them is to just bang away color grading now straight onto the clip, but there are other ways to do that, and adjustment layers is one of them. And the reason that you would use an adjustment layer rather than color grading directly onto the clip is that it allows you, if you've used different portions of this video clip across your whole project, it allows you to apply that grade and that color correction and what have you across the whole of those clips. It also allows you to do that in a way that is non-destructive. So you're not changing the grade of the clip and then later on you might need to regrade it a different color. You can just do that with adjustment layers rather than doing it straight onto the clip itself. So how do we do that? So first things first, what we do is we've got our clip, as I say, on the timeline. So we go over to our project bin, which is this bin window here, click on the file, and then we go to adjustment layer, and we know it's a 4096 by 2160 clip because it's 4K, so 23 frames a second. That's what we want. We're just going to leave that whole setting system as it is because we want it to match this clip and this frame. So click OK on that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing again, and we're going to create two of them. So we've got two adjustment layers. And the reason we've got two adjustment layers is because this is filmed in log, we want one adjustment layer to bring it back to color, and then one adjustment layer for us to correct it and grade it and so on and so forth. So we're going to rename the first one. We're going to name that Rec 709. Let's rename that Rec 709 rather than 709 Rec, just to be tidy. And then this one, I'm just going to call it grade. And that is just, and we're not going to really grade it, we're just going to correct it and so on and so forth. But I'll show you how that's done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag Rec 709 onto this clip, and we're going to extend it out. And we're going to drag grade onto this clip, and we're going to extend it out. So basically what we've got is our clip, and then we've got 2 adjustment layers. So first things first, let's go into colour, get colour up as we have. There we are, and we can see we've got all the different sections and what have you. We're going to click on the Rec 709. We're going to come to basic colour correction, input LUT, and then we're going to browse for an input LUT, and we're going to go and get our Rec 709 LUT. Now that's applied, that Rec 709 LUT has been applied to this adjustment layer, and as you can see that's changed now. And the beauty of these adjustment layers is you can turn them off. So I can turn it off and I can see the difference between the two, what exactly is happening with these layers. So the second layer, the second adjustment layer, we're going to go to grade, and you can see it's exactly the same as it was before. So we can see how much of a difference it's made in terms of where it's put the colours and what have you, and we can see that the blue's a little bit low and so on and so forth, and we might want to add a bit more blue in, and we might want to just take the whites down a little bit, the exposure down a little bit, and the whites down a little bit, just to give it a little bit more punch. Take a bit of the contrast up, and we'll bring the highlights down a little bit, just to give it a little bit more of that sort of feel of a bit more stuff going off there. It might want a bit more of that, just to keep it going a little bit. And we might want to add a bit more, because it was a warm day, we might want to add a bit more yellow in. Maybe we do want a bit more yellow in rather than a bit more blue, because it's not quite so cold. And we'll bring that back a little, like so, and we're just literally just clicking buttons here basically. So let's just have a bit more of that, a bit more punch, and a bit more of that. That's just bringing it back a little bit there, and then we can just add all our curves in and so on and so forth. So we'll bring that down slightly, and we'll bring maybe that down slightly, just to give the blacks a bit more. And now what we can do is we can turn these things off, and you can see what difference it is that we've made. And this is just basically just clicky buttons. We're not trying to be too difficult with these things. We're not trying to make it look too onerous, as it were, just for a quick tutorial. And we can look around and we can see, oh, look at that one, that looks quite punchy. It might need some adjustment to it though. So we just go through these, see whether or not we've got any LUTs that might give us a starting point of somewhere that, you know, is a sort of look that we're looking for. And let's have a look and see what we can see. I mean, that one seems like it's quite punchy, so we click on that and we got that as a punchy one, but then we don't want too much of it. So let's bring that down to about 45%, and you've basically colour corrected and graded a clip. So essentially we started off with this, and then we went to a Rec 709 which gave us this, and then we went to a final grade which gave us that, and basically that's where we're at with our grade. And it's just sort of given us a little bit more of a look, or the look that you want. And you can basically move these about, so you can grab them like so and just drag them about, and you can get them, you can bring them in one at a time if you wanted to, as you can see. So you can see exactly what's going off with each one, and effectively that's how you use adjustment layers to color grade. And of course you can of course split this clip up like this, so we can move this about if you wanted to, and we can just say, right, well, let's get rid of those, and we could put them back on if we wanted to. So we just hold alt down and then put them back on, highlight them both, drag them out to the length of the clip, and then we can put something else in the middle, and you've got exactly the same look going off regardless of where your clip is. It's exactly the same. It's just basically going to help you color grade and sort out your clips and manage your clips in a much more sort of methodical way. Now it's time for us to create our own transition, and it's time for us to make that using an adjustment layer, and that has a couple of benefits to it. The first is that you can recreate this transition just by dragging and dropping it over other clips, so you've not got to continually keep doing the settings, because it becomes a self-contained effect in itself. So let's give that a go now. So first thing we're going to do is go to File, Adjustment Layer, leave all settings as they are because we want them to match this aspect ratio and what have you. So we're going to do that. Then what we're going to do is drag this this adjustment layer over the frame, over the videos that we want to do it over, and we're just going to shorten it a little bit because we don't need as much of that, and put it roughly as we can, as close as we can to the center of this video here. So next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get our playhead over the top, and we can see that it just switches between these two videos, but we're going to need to make that a little bit of a transition. So we're going to select our adjustment layer, we're going to go to Effects, and we're going to type in Offset or Off, and we're going to see the offset effect, which is here. So we've got that offset effect set on here now, and we're going to go up to our Effects tab, our Effects Control tab, and what we're going to do is we're going to Shift, and I'm going to tap 4 times. 1, 2, let's get that right. Let's get this on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're at 4 now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the offset effect, and I'm going to add a keyframe like so, and then I'm going to bring it back to the middle as we are. There we are, back to the center, and I'm going to go the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to add another one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one. I'm going to make sure that at that keyframe there, so this keyframe here, I'm then going to move this entirely to the right, like so. So by the time it gets to there, it's entirely at the right. So it's moved from left to right via here. I'm going to highlight this, right click on it, temporal interpolation. I'm going to hit ease out, and I'm going to do the same on this keyframe, but I'm going to hit ease in. So we're all sorted there. And then what we're going to do is going to go back to the center of the clip like that, and it's time for us to add a little bit of blur to this. So we're going to type in direction, and we're going to click directional blur, and we're going to drag that on as well. And then we're going to set our blur length to 180 because that's in the middle of the frame like it is. I'm going to add a keyframe to that there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the direction of the blur to 90 so it's going the right way. And then what we're going to do is when we get to here, we're going to come back here. So we've clicked on the first keyframe of the initial offset effect, and then we're going to make this 0 like so, and we're going to do exactly the same with this one on the other end. I'm going to make that 0 like so. And effectively what we've got now is we've got this sort of effect going off in the middle here. So I'm going to add a marker in the center of this here. So I'm going to hit M on my keyboard, and that's put a green little marker. If I just move off there, you can see a green marker there in the middle. Basically what that's done is that allows me to then just grab this, and it allows me to snap it to the center of whatever clip it is that I'm dealing with. So it's basically, it just means I can grab it and drag it about, or I can copy by holding down Alt and make another one and then drag it and put it in the center, and you can see it's holding over there and it's now in the center for the next clip, etc, etc. So basically what happens is this is the effect we get. And of course you can make that faster or slower. You can make it as fast or as slow as you want. So in essence what we can do is we can move it forward like this, and we can move that forward like that. So we've got it kind of like that, so that makes it a little bit faster. So it happens a lot quicker, as you can see, and you can do that over a couple of frames if you want to. We can make it even faster, so we can go like this and drag it foot backwards, and we can just play around with these until we get them as fast as we want it to be, basically. So making a great title is also something you can do with an adjustment layer. So you've got yourself a nice shot, you've got yourself a nice little title, but you want to just sort of push it off the video a little bit. You want to just sort of like give it that little bit of separation. Well, you can do that with an adjustment layer. So first thing we're going to do is drag our text layer up one video. So this is up one track, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to add a adjustment layer. Leave it out the same, all the same aspect ratio and everything, and we're going to drag that adjustment layer in below our text. We're going to make it the same size, and we're going to click on the adjustment layer like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our effects tab, and we're going to type in blur. And we're going to look for Gaussian blur. This one's actually already selected Gaussian blur for me, which is great. I'm going to drag that on there, and then up in this corner here on our effects controls, we're going to adjust the blurriness of it to suit what we want it to suit, like so. So we've got a full blur, as it were, and the whole thing is blurred and it pops off. But we don't want to do that. We want to add a little bit more to it. So what we can do is we can come and we can say, let's have a mask on there, and we can then alter that mask size. So we can hold shift down and just drag it out so that it's the whole length of the clip, like so. And then we can alter the feather to 0. So we've got a nice little blur line coming off there, like so. So just reselect it again as we are. And now what we can do is we can animate that opacity in of this. So let's bring it back to the beginning and go for the opacity. So we want mask opacity here. Here we are, that's 100%. So we want to select that there, a couple of frames in, because we only want a couple of frames, we don't want too many. So we need it 100% there, go back, hit to 0, click OK, that's all fine. And then when we click play, we get a great sort of masked in blur with our City Life title. But you can still see the city through it. You can still see all the stuff going off through the back of that title. So from that, I hope you can see that these do just save you a lot of time, and they open up the ability for you to be able to speed up your workflow, add some creativity, and to be able to just replicate stuff really, really easily. And it sort of like gives you that ability to tidy up your timeline, so to speak, because you can switch these effects off when you don't need them, or you don't want them, or you think that doesn't work. You can separate all these things out. And I suppose that's where, if you googled, say, Marvel movie timelines, edit timelines, you'll see these huge timelines with loads of layers and loads of little things all over the place, and they're all coloured up and all that kind of stuff, and it looks massively complicated. Well, they are adjustment layers, video and adjustment layers. There's different video scenes and different stuff that's all done different places in different timelines and different tracks, and there's adjustment layers all over the place. And that is basically so that they can do all that, and they can sort of tweak each individual little thing, and it all comes together as part of that workflow where everything is tidy and everything has its place, and you know where everything is, but you're not destructing anything. You're not having to take a clip and go, actually, do you know what, we want to go back to that as a flashback, but now I've got to ungrade it all, I've got to reset it back to what it was before, I've got to recut it. I can just grab the clip, drag it along, drop it in, boom, done. And I can put a different effect on it, and it doesn't make any difference because that underlying clip wasn't adjusted. It was adjusted in adjustment layer, and all those effects were contained in almost like an effects layer, as it were. So with that, I hope you did find it useful, and which you should do, I hope, as an editor, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!